I always thought I had a good grasp on reality. My life was, by all accounts, normal. I had a steady job, a decent house, and a wife who I believed loved me. That illusion shattered one night when I came home earlier than expected. The house was eerily quiet when I stepped inside. Usually she'd be in the kitchen or living room, the TV humming in the background. But that night, nothing. I called out, but there was no answer. Something felt off. I walked down the hallway to our bedroom. The door was ajar, and I could hear muffled voices. My heart raced as I approached. When I pushed the door open, I saw them. My wife and another man, tangled in our sheets. They didn't notice me at first. I stood there, frozen, a mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief washing over me. When they finally saw me, the room erupted into chaos. He scrambled to gather his clothes, muttering apologies, while she looked at me with a mix of guilt and fear. I couldn't speak. I just turned around and walked out, the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. That night was a blur. I left the house and drove aimlessly for hours. I didn't know where to go or what to do. The betrayal felt like a knife in my chest, twisting with every thought of them together. By the time I returned, it was past midnight. She was waiting for me, sitting on the couch with tears streaming down her face. "Please, let me explain," she pleaded as I walked in. I didn't respond. I went straight to the bedroom, grabbed a pillow and a blanket, and made my way to the guest room. I could hear her sobbing, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I felt numb. The next morning, she tried to talk to me again. "It was a mistake," she said. "It didn't mean anything." Her words only fueled my anger. "A mistake? You call sleeping with another man a mistake?" She flinched at my tone. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." Days turned into weeks and the tension between us was palpable. We fought constantly, harsh words and accusations flying back and forth. The trust was shattered, and every interaction was laced with resentment. I couldn't look at her without seeing them together, and she couldn't look at me without seeing the pain in my eyes. One night, during another heated argument, she finally broke down. "Why can't you just forgive me?" she screamed. "Forgive you? How can I forgive you when you destroyed everything we had?" I shot back. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. For the first time, I saw the depth of her regret. But it wasn't enough. The damage was done, and there was no going back. I spent hours thinking about what went wrong. I replayed every moment of our relationship, trying to find signs I might have missed. Was it my fault? Did I drive her into another man's arms? Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. The self-doubt ate away at me, and I couldn't find any peace. I decided to confront the other man. I needed to understand why this happened. I found his address and showed up at his doorstep one evening. He was surprised to see me, but he invited me in. We sat down and I asked him bluntly, "Why her?" He sighed and looked down. "I didn't know she was married at first. By the time I found out, I was already in too deep. She was unhappy, and I guess I was there at the wrong time." His words hit me hard. Was she really that unhappy? I left his place with more questions than answers, feeling even more lost. Months passed, and the wounds were still fresh. We tried counseling, but it only seemed to highlight the irreparable damage. The trust was gone, and every session felt like reopening a wound that refused to heal. One evening, she approached me with a resigned look. "I think we need to talk." I nodded, knowing where this was going. We sat down, and she took a deep breath. "I think it's time for us to let go. We're hurting each other more by staying together." I wanted to argue, to fight for our marriage, but deep down, I knew she was right. The love we once had was overshadowed by the betrayal and the constant fighting. I nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right." The decision to separate was mutual, but that didn't make it any easier. We divided our belongings, and I found an apartment not too far from our old house. The first night alone was the hardest. The silence was deafening, and the emptiness of the space felt like a reflection of my life. I threw myself into work trying to distract myself from the pain. But every now and then memories of her would surface, bringing a fresh wave of sadness. I knew it would take time, but I hoped that eventually I could move on. Slowly, life started to regain some semblance of normalcy. I made new friends, picked up new hobbies, and began to find joy in the little things again. The pain of her betrayal was still there, but it no longer consumed me. One day I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked different, happier. We exchanged polite pleasantries, and as we talked, I realized I no longer felt the anger and resentment that once burned so fiercely. I'd moved on, and so had she. As I walked away, I felt a sense of closure. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was ready for whatever the future held, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Looking back, the experience taught me a lot about myself. It forced me to confront my own flaws and insecurities. I learned that forgiveness is not about the other person, but about finding peace within yourself. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes it throws you curveballs you never saw coming. But in the end, it's how you deal with those challenges that defines who you are. I'm still healing, still learning, and still growing, and that's okay. But the story doesn't end there. Moving on wasn't just about new beginnings. It was also about coming to terms with the past. The memories of our happier times, our shared dreams and plans for the future, kept resurfacing. I couldn't just erase those years from my life. They were a part of me, a part of who I had become. I had to learn to live with them, to accept them as part of my history. One particularly rough night, I found myself going through old photo albums. Each picture was a reminder of the life we once shared. Our wedding day, vacations, birthdays, all those moments we had captured, now felt like a lifetime ago. I realized that those memories didn't just belong to us as a couple. They were part of my individual journey as well. They were the building blocks of my experiences and had shaped me into the person I was now. I reached out to close friends and family, something I had avoided in the immediate aftermath of the separation. Their support and understanding were invaluable. They didn't judge me, they just listened. They helped me see that moving on didn't mean forgetting the past, but rather learning to live with it in a healthier way. Their perspectives helped me understand that my feelings of hurt and betrayal were valid, but they didn't have to define my future. Work became a sanctuary, a place where I could focus and find some semblance of order amidst the chaos of my personal life. I took on new projects, sought out new challenges, and slowly began to rebuild my confidence. My colleagues, who had noticed my initial withdrawal, were supportive in their own ways, giving me the space I needed while also being there when I needed to talk. As months turned into a year, I started dating again, tentatively at first. It was strange navigating the world of relationships with the scars of my past still fresh. I was cautious, guarded, but also hopeful. I met people who had their own stories of heartbreak and healing, and it was comforting to know I wasn't alone in this journey. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. Each new connection taught me something about myself, about trust, and about the capacity to love again. One relationship in particular stood out. She was understanding, patient, and kind. She didn't push me to open up, but created a space where I felt safe enough to do so. With her, I learned that it was okay to be vulnerable, that it was okay to trust again. Our relationship grew slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. It wasn't about replacing what I had lost, but about creating something new and meaningful. I also took time to rediscover my passions. I enrolled in a cooking class, something I had always wanted to do but never found the time for. It was therapeutic, creating something tangible and delicious from scratch. It reminded me that life could be fulfilling and joyful, even in the small things. I started hiking again, finding solace in nature, in the quiet strength of the mountains and the serenity of the forests. My journey of healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments of doubt and sadness, but each step forward, no matter how small, was progress. I learned to be kinder to myself, to acknowledge my pain, but not let it define me. I learned that healing is a process, one that takes time and patience. Running into my ex-wife occasionally was inevitable, since we lived in the same city. Each encounter became easier over time. We both had moved on, and there was a mutual unspoken understanding that we were better off apart. Our shared history didn't have to be a source of pain, but rather a chapter in our lives that had led us to where we were now. One day, As I was sitting in a park, watching the world go by, I realized how far I had come. The pain of betrayal had once felt insurmountable, but now it was a part of my past, not my present. I had built a new life for myself, one filled with hope, love, and new possibilities. The journey had been difficult, but it had also been transformative. I often reflect on that time of my life, not with bitterness, but with a sense of acceptance and gratitude. It taught me resilience, the importance of self-care, and the power of forgiveness. It showed me that even in the darkest times, there is always a path forward, always a way to heal and grow. The experience also deepened my empathy for others. I became more attuned to the struggles of those around me, more willing to lend an ear or a helping hand. My own pain had given me a greater capacity for compassion, and that was something I valued deeply. Months had turned into a year and then some. I had settled into my new life, but there were still moments when the weight of the past bore down on me. Sometimes it was a song on the radio, a smell that reminded me of her, or a place we used to go together. Those moments were hard, but they were becoming less frequent and less painful. I had learned to breathe through them, to let them pass without allowing them to drag me back into the darkness. Therapy had been a crucial part of my healing process. Talking to someone who was unbiased, who could help me unravel the complex emotions and thoughts, made a significant difference. My therapist helped me understand that it was okay to grieve the relationship, to feel the loss deeply. She also taught me coping mechanisms, ways to manage the waves of emotion that sometimes felt overwhelming. I started writing again, something I hadn't done in years. Journaling became a way to process my thoughts and feelings, to get them out of my head and onto paper. It was cathartic, and slowly, my journal entries began to shift from pain and anger to hope and plans for the future. I found that writing about my experiences helped me make sense of them, to see them from different perspectives, and to gain a sense of closure. Social connections were another vital aspect of my recovery. I reconnected with old friends and made an effort to build new relationships. I joined a local book club, started attending community events, and even took up volunteering at a nearby animal shelter. These activities not only kept me busy, but also introduced me to a network of supportive and understanding people. Their companionship was a balm for my wounded soul, reminding me that I was not alone. One spring afternoon, while at a friend's barbecue, I met someone who would come to play a significant role in my journey. She was different from anyone I had met before, confident, independent, and incredibly empathetic. We clicked instantly, and over time, our friendship blossomed into something deeper. She understood my past, respected my boundaries, and never pressured me to move faster than I was comfortable with. Being with her was like a breath of fresh air. She showed me that love could be gentle and kind, that trust could be rebuilt, even from the ashes of betrayal. Our relationship was built on a foundation of open communication and mutual respect. We took things slow, savoring each moment and allowing our connection to grow naturally. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. My ex-wife and I occasionally crossed paths, and each encounter was civil, if not cordial. Over time, the raw edges of our past had smoothed out, leaving behind a sense of mutual respect. We had both moved on, finding our own paths to happiness. It was strange, but also comforting, to know that she too had found peace. One evening, as I sat on the porch of my new home watching the sunset, I reflected on how far I had come. The journey from betrayal to healing had been long and arduous, filled with setbacks and triumphs. But it had also been incredibly transformative. I had learned so much about myself, about love and forgiveness, and about the resilience of the human spirit. I had discovered that while the pain of betrayal could be devastating, it didn't have to define the rest of my life. It was a chapter in my story, but not the entire book. The experiences had shaped me, but they hadn't broken me. Instead, they had revealed a strength and depth of character I hadn't known I possessed. Now, as I looked toward the future, I did so with a sense of hope and anticipation. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in my ability to navigate life's challenges. I knew there would be ups and downs, but I also knew that I had the tools and support to handle them. Life had a way of throwing curveballs, but it also had a way of providing unexpected blessings. The betrayal had been one of the darkest periods of my life, but it had also led to some of the most profound growth and transformation. It had taught me the value of self-care, the importance of resilience, and the power of love and forgiveness. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening breeze on my face. I was at peace, not just with the past, but with the present and the future. I had come a long way, and I was proud of the person I had become. I was ready for whatever the next chapter held, confident that I could handle it with grace and strength. Life after my wife's betrayal continued to be a journey of self-discovery and growth. I had navigated through the worst of the storm and found my footing again. The days became brighter and my heart lighter as I embraced the future with a renewed sense of hope. After my ex-wife and I parted ways, I moved to a new city, seeking a fresh start. The move was daunting at first, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. The new environment provided a clean slate, free from the memories and associations that haunted my old life. My job remained a constant, providing stability and a sense of purpose. However, I decided to take on new challenges and responsibilities at work. I enrolled in a management course, which not only helped me professionally, but also boosted my confidence. My colleagues noticed the change in me, and I soon found myself being offered a promotion. It was a testament to how far I had come, and it felt like validation of my efforts to rebuild my life. Outside of work, I continued to explore new hobbies and interests. The cooking classes had become a regular part of my routine, and I even started hosting dinner parties for friends. These gatherings were filled with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the loneliness I had once felt. The culinary skills I had acquired became a source of pride and joy, allowing me to express myself creatively. Hiking remained a favorite pastime. The solace of nature, the challenge of the trails, and the sense of accomplishment upon reaching a peak were invigorating. On one of these hikes, I joined a local outdoor adventure group. It was there that I met like-minded individuals who shared my love for the outdoors. The group became a close-knit community, and I found myself forming deep and meaningful friendships. Among the group was a woman named Claire. She was adventurous, kind-hearted, and had a contagious zest for life. Our friendship grew naturally, and we often found ourselves partnering up for hikes and other outdoor activities. Claire had a way of seeing the world that was refreshing and inspiring. She taught me to appreciate the present moment and to find joy in the little things. As our friendship deepened, I found myself opening up to her about my past. Claire listened without judgment, offering support and understanding. She shared her own experiences of heartbreak and resilience, and through our conversations, we both found healing. It was clear that our bond was special, and slowly, my feelings for her began to grow. I was cautious, though. The scars from my previous relationship still lingered, and I didn't want to rush into anything. Claire understood this and never pressured me. We took our time, allowing our relationship to evolve naturally. It was a stark contrast to the turbulence of my past, and I cherished the stability and mutual respect that defined our connection. One evening, as we sat by a campfire during a group camping trip, Claire turned to me and said, "You've come a long way, you know. I can see it in your eyes. The peace, the strength. It's inspiring." Her words struck a chord deep within me. She was right. I had come a long way, and the journey had made me stronger and more resilient. I looked at her, the firelight dancing in her eyes, and realized that I was ready to embrace this new chapter of my life. Leaning in, I kissed her softly, and in that moment, I knew that we had something truly special. Our relationship flourished, built on a foundation of trust, mutual respect, and shared passions. We supported each other's dreams and aspirations, and our lives became intertwined in the most beautiful way. Claire encouraged me to pursue my creative writing, something I had neglected for years. With her support, I began to write short stories, and even started working on a novel. Life with Claire was an adventure. We traveled together, exploring new places and creating unforgettable memories. Whether it was hiking through national parks, taking spontaneous road trips, or simply enjoying a quiet evening at home, every moment with her was filled with joy and contentment. As time went on, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. The pain of my wife's betrayal had been a catalyst for profound change and growth. It had forced me to confront my insecurities, to rebuild my life from the ground up, and to rediscover the things that truly mattered to me. My relationship with Claire was a testament to the fact that love could be rediscovered, that trust could be rebuilt, and that happiness could be found again. We were two individuals who had faced our own challenges and emerged stronger for it. Together, we created a life that was rich with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. In the end, the experience of betrayal and healing had taught me invaluable lessons. I learned the importance of self-care, the power of resilience, and the beauty of forgiveness. I discovered that life is not defined by the challenges we face, but by how we rise above them. And most importantly, I realized that love, in its truest form, is worth the wait. Today, I live a life that is fulfilling and meaningful. I continue to grow, to learn, and to embrace the adventures that come my way. The scars of the past are still there, but they serve as reminders of my journey and the strength I have found within myself. With Claire by my side, I look forward to the future with hope and optimism, ready to face whatever comes our way, knowing that together, we can conquer anything. Life after betrayal is not the end. It is a new beginning. It is a chance to rebuild, to rediscover, and to find happiness again. And for that, I am eternally grateful.